you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
And overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to Thursday Night Football Overtime. Saints, Cowboys, America's team, Jersey boys, at home taking on the red-hot New Orleans Saints. Saints came into the game winners of 10 straight. Cowboys came into the game hot themselves, winners of 3 straight. And I had talked about this on the podcast that someone's streak had to go. Someone had to have their asses cooled off in this game. And I told anybody that was listening on the podcast, and really I've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks, that this Cowboys defense, and I've said this, and Redskins fans can attest to this and back me up here. I've said that this Dallas Cowboys defense is as legit as it gets. And I tweeted out on Twitter that this Cowboys D is too legit. And I told Redskins fans as well on Twitter that if the Cowboys won this football game, and I told my dad actually this on Thanksgiving night when his Cowboys beat my Redskins, that if you go and you beat the Saints on Thursday, the division is yours. You can have it. Take it. You earned it. Okay? And so on Twitter, I said, if the Cowboys win this game, just as an aside, if the Cowboys win this football game, you can go ahead and treat this NFC East division like a Christmas gift and wrap it up. It's the Cowboys to take home and relish and enjoy. This was a big win. This was a fun game to watch. I know a lot of you got excited about that 54-51, I think it was, or 56-51, whatever the hell it was, shootout we had on Monday night a couple weeks back with the Rams and the Chiefs. This gets me more excited right here, 13-10 physical football game. Yeah, there was some mistakes in this game. Yeah, the officiating sucked. And we could say that about the officiating on a number of games. Redskins fans know exactly what I'm talking about. And look, at the end of the day, the officiating stunk on both sides for both teams. And at the end of the day, the Cowboys won this football game. That was a hell of a performance by their defense. They went out, they took it to the Saints from the opening kickoff, and they never gave up. And I thought that 13 points wasn't going to be nearly enough. I thought the Saints would come out in the second half and exert their will over this Cowboys football team. Look, I know the Cowboys have trouble scoring. So I thought the 13, they weren't going to score much more than that in this game. I thought maybe they'd tack on a field goal, maybe a token touchdown, but I felt like the Saints were going to score at least 21 to 24 points in the second half. And when they were unable to score in that opening possession of the second half, I said, whoa, this Cowboys defense is playing lights out. And the thing that you saw right away was Drew Brees was scared. Pressure will do that to you. Let me say this. This is the last time I'll address the Redskins fans on this game right now, is that you want to know what an elite defense looks like? That's what an elite defense looks like. The pressure on Brees all night flustered him. Alvin Kamara did not look comfortable. How many drops did he have? Even muffed a punt. He didn't look good. He didn't look comfortable. Michael Thomas had corners draped all over him. How about the game that Anthony Brown turned in tonight? He was all over Michael Thomas. How about the other corner? He had a couple of penalties in the game. Byron Jones did. He was outstanding in this game as well. They were all over these Saints receivers. They had no space to breathe. They shut down the Saints run game, and they got after Drew Brees. Brees was so uncomfortable. Even when there wasn't pressure, Brees looked like there was pressure. He was never comfortable in this game, and that's what a dominant front, a real dominant front, not the one we have where we talk about Payne and Ioannidis and Allen. Where do those guys show up when we need them most? They don't. That's what an elite defense looks like. That pressure with just 4 guys all night long was consistent, and it flustered Brees. It made him uncomfortable. He couldn't step up in the pocket, and when Brees can't step up, you see what you saw tonight, a guy that is antsy. And we talk about all these quarterbacks making mistakes and turning the football over. You can see that Drew Brees is not unlike these other guys out here. When pressure is applied, there aren't a lot of quarterbacks. There are only a handful of quarterbacks that are able to thrive in pressure-packed situations where there's a ton of pressure on you. And the lack of mobility that Drew Brees has, which is why I am a guy that feels like Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the league, because these are the types of games that you see the lack of mobility catches up to you. Because Aaron Rodgers would just get out of the pocket, vacate, and try to extend and make a play outside of the pocket using his legs and throwing the football outside the pocket on the move. Brady has trouble when there's pressure, imminent pressure in his face. Brees struggles with it. We just saw Roethlisberger with another funky game on the road. He struggled against Jacksonville, had a bunch of turnovers, struggled against the Denver Broncos, turned it over a bunch of times in that game, including a bat-breaking, game-clinching pick that lost them that football game against Denver. This is what happens when you can't move and there's pressure being applied to you. And they didn't blitz a ton, did the Cowboys. They blitzed just enough to be dangerous in this game. They just applied pressure with 4. It was Gregory who had an abysmal game, tried to single-handedly throw it away, give it to the Saints. But Gregory got pressure tonight. You saw what DeMarcus Lawrence, and he even said, look, what's going to happen when we bust the Saints in their goddamn mouth? We'll see how they react then. They're a bully, and they've been bullying everybody around. But what happens when the bully gets hit in the goddamn mouth? How do they respond? We saw the Saints bitched up tonight. Okay, guys dropping passes. They looked scared. Brees was scared. Brees was flustered. He wanted no part. He should have thrown 3 interceptions tonight. Brees was scared. Michael Thomas, he's always flexing. He wasn't flexing tonight. They were all over his ass, like white on rice. He had no space in this football game to operate. Every time he tried to catch the football, there was a Cowboys defender in his asshole. They had the type of defensive performance that you must have if you're going to have a chance to beat a team like New Orleans. Now, this is the thing that I'll be able to say. They can't take that to New Orleans and do the same thing. They can't duplicate that in New Orleans. Even though defense travels, it's a totally different environment in New Orleans. The outcome would not be the same. That's why a game like this is great, and it gives the Cowboys confidence that if they see this same Saints team in the playoffs, they know that they can play with them. But it's a totally different environment when you go on the road in that dome. It changes things. However, the Cowboys can duplicate this in Los Angeles because there isn't much of a home field environment in Los Angeles. So if the Cowboys are able to play this brand of defense, now they're going to have to score more than 13 points. I know that 13 was enough tonight. Most weeks, I don't care how good your defense is, 13 is not going to be enough. You're going to need to score more than 13 points if you want to beat the likes of the Rams. Hell, even Chicago, who plays just as good a defense as this Cowboys football team, they can score more than 13. So you're going to have to score more than 13 if you're looking to win. But I got to give it to this Cowboys football team. This was as impressive a performance as I've seen all season long, especially against this Saints football team. And I knew they had this in them. Every person that I heard talk this week just automatically gave a Cowboys loss here. And I said, I don't understand why you guys think the Saints are just going to walk into Big D and come out with an easy dub. They're not at home. Had they been at home, okay, I understand the premature Dallas is going to lose talk. They are at home, are the Cowboys. They haven't lost all season at home. They're a dangerous team because they play defense. They can run the football, although Ezekiel Elliott wasn't that dominant tonight. But they do all of the things. They have all the ingredients of a team that can upset a team like the Saints because they can slow the game down, they can play defense, and they can get to Drew Brees without having to leave themselves vulnerable on the back end. They don't have to blitz. They can bring 4 guys. You see the speed on defense for this Cowboys team, and that's another thing that separates them defensively from a lot of these other teams that are so-called dominant defenses or really good defenses. They can run on defense. Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, they change things. How many times have we seen Kamara catch a little flat route and outrun a linebacker, or catch a little out route out of the backfield, outrun that backer to the sideline, turn the corner and pick up 11 in the first down? That shit wasn't happening tonight. All right, the screen game was dead. Why? Because their 314-pound defensive tackle, Antoine Woods, was not having it. That's the kind of athleticism the Cowboys have. Even their defensive tackles are stupid athletic. They were all over this Saints offense. They had their number, and this was a dominant performance by a Cowboys defense that I've been talking about all season as one of the best defenses in the entire National Football League, and they proved it tonight on a big stage. Everybody's going to go goo-goo gaga over this win, and look, I can't say anything about it because this was a dominant performance on the defensive side. They've got to do more offensively. Dak had a great game, but he still missed Michael Gallup for a touchdown that would have put this game on ice. Those are the kind of throws that you have to make if you want to take it to that next level, but Dak was outstanding. What was he, 24 of 28? In this game, only 4 incompletions. At one point, I think he had 17 or 18 straight completions in this game. He was outstanding. How about the run on 3rd and 10 to break a couple of tackles? We've seen Dak do this. He did it on Thanksgiving versus the Redskins, broke their back with a touchdown late in that game where he eluded a couple of defenders. He did it again here on a crucial 3rd down. Dak Prescott, it's not always pretty with him, okay? And he had some turnovers tonight. He fumbled the football a couple of times. This is what you get with Dak Prescott. He can be sloppy with the ball at times, but also what you get is a guy that's an extreme competitor, and he will put his body on the line to try to help his team win the football game. He's done it 2 weeks in a row, and he's been successful. This Cowboys team is playing with the utmost confidence now. Remember, on a Monday night versus the Tennessee Titans, this team was left for dead at 3-5. 4 weeks later, and I talk about this all the time, it's a week-to-week league. The next week, they go to Philly, save their season on a Sunday night, and now 3 weeks later after that, look at the Cowboys. 4 straight wins, 7-5, atop the NFC East. And for anybody out there that thinks that this division isn't theirs, you can go ahead and take a hike. This division is signed, sealed, delivered. The Cowboys are your 2018 NFC East divisional champions. And they're going to beat Tampa Bay. They may lose to Indianapolis on the road. That's a very distinct possibility. But they're going to beat Philly again. And most likely, they're probably going to beat the Giants as well. So they're going to win this division. The question isn't, are they going to win the division? It's how many games are they going to win along the way? Are they going to win 11 and run the table? Are they going to win 10, which I think is very doable? With this win, 10 looks like a lock for this Cowboys football team. 11 would be phenomenal, and it would be the type of boost that would give this Cowboys team all the momentum they need to get hot at the right time and potentially be one of the most dangerous outs in the NFC playoffs. They go 10-6. That's great too. They'll win the division. They'll get the home playoff game. Most likely it'll be against a team like Seattle, probably, if not Seattle, Minnesota. Maybe they'll see the Redskins. My money is on Seattle. Seattle has a very favorable schedule, although they've got some tough games like the Chiefs at home. I talked about all this on my podcast, so I don't need to rehash it now. But if the Seahawks, and they got 4 out of their final 5 games at home due to the Seattle Seahawks. They're going to probably get to 9, possibly 10 wins. If they get to 10, they're going to get in as the final wild card because I think Minnesota is going to get the first wild card in the NFC. So the Cowboys are in a great position. They saw Seattle earlier in the season. They made so many mistakes in that game and still had a chance to win. If they get the Seahawks a second time, this time at home, I think they'll dispose of the Seahawks. This Cowboys team right now, very, very dangerous. I don't know if they're good enough offensively to make noise in the postseason, but I do know this. Their defense is good enough to do just what it did tonight again and again and again. That's what happens when you're elite. You can duplicate these types of performances. When you're an okay defense, you can have a night like this, but you can't duplicate it week in and week out. The Cowboys have been doing this for the last 6 to 7 weeks strong, okay? They've been doing this. They did it against Atlanta. That's a high-octane offense, okay? They did it against the Redskins. The Redskins stink on offense, but that's what you do to stinking-ass offenses. You put their dick in the dirt. Well, they did that to the Redskins to the tune of 4 turnovers. They did it again tonight. This team has been exceptional defensively, and now you look at what they've been able to do against this Saints team tonight, and this, by far and away, was their best performance of the season. Look out for the Dallas Cowboys. They are a team to be reckoned with in the NFC conference. Again, I don't know if they do enough offensively to do what it's going to need to be done and do what it's going to take to maybe advance deep into the postseason, a la the NFC Championship game. But I can tell you this much, with the way they play defense, I think it's a shoo-in for them to not only win the division, but probably get out of that wild card weekend with a win, because whoever they play, whether it's Minnesota can't handle this front. Their offensive line isn't good enough. Minnesota can't run the football. They know Kirk Cousins. They're going to turn him over a couple of times. They're going to get to Kirk Cousins. They're going to fluster him. They can't run the ball. That offensive line stinks. They can handle the Minnesota Vikings if it comes to that. If it comes to being a game against Seattle, they can handle the Seahawks as well. So I really like where the Cowboys are right now, and I think they're trending in the right direction. This is a scary football team, if you ask me, that's playing their best football at the right time of the season. You go to the New Orleans Saints. Look, This happens, okay? You won 10 straight. You couldn't have thought you were going to run the rest of the table and win 15 straight after losing in week 1. You knew you were going to lose at some point. You have no shame in losing to a damn good Cowboys defense, okay? It'd be one thing if you lose to a rinky-dink defense and you get shut down like this. Your offense is too potent to have that happen. This is a damn good Cowboys defense, and you just ran into a buzzsaw tonight. On the road, you came out flat in this game. We saw it from the jump. The offense was flat. Brees was under siege. He was never comfortable. You needed the run game to really bail you out tonight. You couldn't get a semblance of the run game going. I didn't like the fact that you just kept trying to go to the perimeter all night. Everything was Kamara sweep to the right, Kamara sweep to the right, trying to get on the outside. This Cowboys defense is fast. You're not going to outrun them to the edge. The only way you're going to beat this Cowboys defense up is by stretching them and then cutting it back. But you're not going to outrun them to the outside, and you might be able to pound them inside, but they're a physical defense as well. So I didn't like the game plan by the Saints. I thought if they were going to have success, it needed to be in the pass game to loosen the Cowboys up, spread them out. I thought the way to go about it was to spread the Cowboys out, get out into some 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, get into maybe some 13 personnel, and get into a position where you get the Cowboys on the field, spread out, get into some 31 personnel where you spread them out, and you get them in a situation where, because they love to put Kamara and Ingram on the field at the same time. I thought you should spread them out and then run the football. 3 wide receiver sets, 1 tight end, make it look like a pass, run it. 4 wide receivers, spread them out, 1 back in the backfield, draw, handoff, spread them out. I thought that was the way to go and really try to take advantage of the Cowboys that way. But to just line up and try to run against this Cowboys defense wasn't going to happen, especially if you're trying to run out wide. It just wasn't in the cards. I thought that we should have saw more 11 personnel from the Cowboys tonight. We saw too much of them trying to be physical and out-muscle the Cowboys and then get out to the edge and run. And this Cowboys defense is just too fast for that. And then Brees was off. Like I said, Brees was under siege. He was under duress. He was not comfortable. And even when he had time, Brees looked antsy for the first time this season. I haven't seen Drew Brees look this antsy this season. I'm trying to tell you that when you get pressure on Brees, remember, Brees is a smaller quarterback. We've seen this before. This isn't the first time. We've seen this before with Drew Brees. That's why the Saints always spend their money on the interior of the offensive line. This is why they always do that. This is why they've always made sure that they've had guys on the interior. Whether you go back to Jahari Evans or you look at Larry Warford, they spend money on the interior of the offensive line. Why? They went out and got Max Unger. They traded for Max Unger. Why? Because they need to make sure that Drew Brees can step up in the pocket. Look, they can get away with faulty tackle play. Why? Because Drew Brees will just step up. He'll manipulate the pocket. He'll just step up. If his guys in the middle, in the interior of his offensive line, from guard to guard, take care of business, keep the pocket clean and sound and intact, Drew Brees will just step up and deliver the football. That wasn't the case tonight. There was nowhere to step up. Brees was uncomfortable. He felt the rush even when it wasn't there. He felt, when have you seen Drew Brees that errant with the football? I mean, there was a throw last week against the Falcons down the sideline to Arnold. Are you kidding me? I mean, that was pinpoint accuracy of the highest degree. We saw none of that tonight. The best throw of the night was a mistake to Keith Kirkwood in the end zone where somebody ran the wrong right. I believe it was Keith Kirkwood. All right, he had no business being out there. I think that ball was intended for Traquan Smith, and Keith Kirkwood just happened to be there. He was supposed to run a seam route. It looked like 4 verticals, 4 verts up the field, and you got to get more inside, and you got to make sure that there is a spatial situation where everybody's got a lane and they stay in it to spread out the defense. They were way too close together, but he still caught it. That was a great throw by Drew Brees, and even if he didn't catch it, then Traquan Smith would have caught it. But in any event, the throws to Michael Thomas were off. The throws to Kamara were off. Kamara was dropping the football. They weren't comfortable tonight. The Cowboys out-physicaled them. They punked the Saints, really, when you look at it. That hit on Arnold early in the game, that forced a fumble? Physicality. Yeah, they missed a helmet-to-helmet launching, crown of the helmet hit on Jalen Smith, but that's physicality. The Cowboys beat up the Saints in this football game. The Saints weren't ready, and DeMarcus Lawrence warned them. I got a super chat, so I want to go ahead and read that. The Guardian says, true or false? Cowboys are America's team. Yes, that is true. That they are America's team. I don't know if they're America's team anymore, but that's the slogan. All right. It may be more like the Steelers or the Packers are America's team now. Maybe even the Patriots. Even though no one loves the Patriots, but it's a fact. The ratings speak for themselves. The Redskins Cowboys Thanksgiving game, highest rating on Fox for the second year second time in 3 years. This game is probably going to have ridiculous off the charts ratings. Cowboys, I would say, are still America's team. Absolutely. In any event, they out physical the Saints, and DeMarcus Lawrence warned them and said, "What's going to happen when we hit them in their mouth? You know, what's going to happen when we punk them? We're going to see if they stand up." And the Saints simply did not do that tonight. It wasn't a lot of Michael Thomas flexing tonight. That's for damn sure. The Cowboys were the ones flexing their muscles, and they were outstanding in this game. They did just enough on the offensive side of the football, but like I said, they got to score more points. 13 was enough tonight. It shouldn't have been enough, but it was. Randy Gregory, if not for Randy Gregory, this might have been a 13-3 game. I don't know if the Saints score any more points, to be honest with you. That's how good the Cowboys were defensively in this football game. If Randy Gregory doesn't have the one penalty on the roughing the kicker, the Saints may have scored 3 points tonight. That's it. That's how dominant this Cowboys defense was tonight. And you got to tip your cap to them. The Saints are going to be fine. This is an aberration. This is not the norm for them. Next week, I expect them to pick up the pieces and go right back to business as usual. Somebody's going to pay for this. Somebody's going to get 43 put on their skull because of what happened tonight. I feel bad for the team that has to play them next. It's probably somebody in the division like Carolina or someone like that. Whoever it is, I feel for you. Someone's got to pay for this. Someone's got to pay for this nonsense, and it may be the next team. The next team, I'm going to tell you this, it'll be the next team that plays in the Dome. I think they might be on the road again next week. It may be at Carolina. We'll see where it is. I know they've got a schedule that's set up where I think they play the Panthers twice in the final 2 or 3 weeks of the season. So I don't know who they play next, but whomever it is, if it's in the Dome, somebody's got to pay for this. So in any event, if you're the Saints, you're 10-2. The only thing that this hurts you in is the fact that now the Rams are in the driver's seat. They went out. They go 15-1, which I don't think is going to happen. But if they went out, they now control. And like I said, the Saints have the best path to the Super Bowl in the NFC if they get home field advantage. A loss like this, don't allow this to snowball. This is the best advice I could give the Saints right now. Don't allow this loss to snowball into 2 out of your next 3 being losses. And next thing you know, you look up, you finish the season at 12-4. The Rams finish at 13-3. They get home field advantage, and all of a sudden now you don't have the keys to the Super Bowl out of the NFC because now you got to go to L.A. And even though L.A. is not a true home field advantage for the Rams, it's not the Superdome. You're not the same team outside the Dome. So like I said, if you're the Saints, wipe this one from the memory bank. They had your number tonight. They out-physicaled you. They punked you tonight. It happens from time to time. And when you're a team like the Saints, where you can be a little bit of finesse sometimes, all right? Even though I love Michael Thomas and he is physical, even though your running backs at times, especially Ingram, they can be physical. This is a Saints team that is finesse at times, okay? It's all good. It happens from time to time. You ran into a physical defense that came to play, and they got the best of you tonight. This is not something that I expect to be duplicated because there aren't many more defenses in the league like Dallas. There are only a handful of defenses that can do what the Cowboys did tonight. So if I'm the Saints, I don't worry about this one too much. You may see this Cowboys team again in the playoffs if you're not careful, and that game will be in New Orleans. I expect the outcome to be much different if you get these boys in the Dome. Nonetheless, let's get to the comment section as the Cowboys win this football game impressively. The score doesn't do it justice, okay? It stands for the Randy Gregory penalty. This is a 13-3 football game, folks. This was sheer domination on the part of the Dallas Cowboys as they get the win 13-10, move to 7-5 And more importantly, I think they've got a real clamp down on the NFC East division, because I really think the Redskins are going to lose on Monday night to the Philadelphia Eagles. And at that point, the Redskins will be 6-6, the Cowboys will be 7-5, and the Cowboys will be in the driver's seat in the NFC East. Chuck Sharp says, do you think Dallas wins the NFC East? I've already answered that question. I Got Munson says, piss poor calls both way. I hate Dallas as much as the next guy, but I have to admit, I feel as though they deserve to win the game more. They absolutely bottled up Thomas and Kamara. That they did. They were dominant on the defensive side of the football. They made the Saints one-dimensional by stopping the run. And normally it doesn't matter if you make the Saints one-dimensional. Whether you take away the pass and force them to run. I've seen the Saints run for over 200 yards in a football game and win. Remember we talked about that game that made them dangerous? I think it was about 6 weeks ago where Drew Brees had 124 yards passing in the game and they still won in convincing fashion. And we looked around and we said, yo, did you realize it was a Sunday night game versus the Minnesota Vikings, as a matter of fact? We looked around and we said, Drew Brees only threw for 124 yards and they won the game going away? Yeah. That they can be one-dimensional and still beat you. We've seen where the run game was asleep like they were against the Redskins, and the pass game just goes bananas, and they win the football game. Nothing was working tonight, and that's credit to the Dallas Cowboys defense. The 20th Mike says, yo, Louie T, how was your bye week, bro? It was phenomenal. Glad to be back, though. Looks like you were right, man. This Dallas defense is playoff ready, and their offense is figuring some things out. I told Redskins fans this about 2 months ago. I said, this Cowboys, and I'm glad 20th Mike put it that exact way, because that's the exact way I put it to them. I said, it's a shame how bad this Cowboy, and this was pre-Amari Cooper trade, which I must say, I still think that first-round pick that they gave up was a bit much, but he's transformed this offense in ways you can't imagine. Yeah, I know taking Connor Williams out, my boy Sean Mack was wrong. Connor Williams stinks. But inserting Xavier Suafilu in the offensive line at left guard, that helped a lot. I know Mark Colombo taking over as your offensive line coach, that helped too. But let's be honest, the Amari Cooper trade has single-handedly taken this offense from a joke to a bona fide, I won't say NFL offense. It's taken it to a respectable level, to the point where this defense will do enough most weeks and this offense will do enough most weeks to get them in a position to win football games. And so I told Redskins fans and the Cowboys fans and anybody that would listen for that matter a long time ago, about 2 months ago, I said, it's a damn shame that this Cowboys offense stinks, because this defense in Dallas is playoff ready. They're a playoff caliber defense. This offense is pedestrian, and they're going to be the reason the Cowboys don't make the postseason. Well, the defense continued to improve. They've gotten better and better, to the point now where even when the offense stinks, like they did tonight, and yes, they stunk. Even though Dak was outstanding, Zeke didn't get off, and they only scored 13. Most weeks, 13 won't be enough. But because this defense is as dominant as it is now, they've grown to the point where they can take over a football game and limit a team like New Orleans, who was averaging damn near 40 a game at 37 a clip, to just 10 points. And seven of those points came on the strength of a Randy Gregory roughing the kicker penalty. And before that, the drive was aided on two Cowboys penalties. So, look, this was a dominant performance by this Cowboys defense, for sure. Atlas says, I must admit, it was great to see the Saints get thrashed like that. Who dat? He says, but seriously, this game was rigged. I don't know which way right now. There's my complimentary Atlas, this game was rigged comment. I Got Munson says, never thought I would see Brees only put up one TD. To be honest, he was lucky to have that one. Blatant offensive PI. Oh well, Skins fans, let's focus on Philly. I've told you this numerous times. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. What the Cowboys doing, that's enough to intimidate anybody, including the Redskins. Can't worry about what they're doing. If the Redskins take care of the Eagles on Monday, guess what? They're still tied for first place. They still control a lot of what's going on this season. They don't control the outcome of the season, because if Dallas wins out and the Redskins win out, guess what? The Cowboys win the division. But what they can do is take care of business and apply pressure to Dallas and force them to have to continue to win. And so that's what it all boils down to. The way the Cowboys are playing, I just don't see the Redskins doing enough to outlast this Cowboys team. I said that 9, and I think most people were in agreement that 9, and I said this on the podcast, 9 would probably win the division. With this win now, 10 is the magic number in the NFC East. You want to win the East? You need 10 wins. That's what it's going to take now. Redskins Review says, what the F, man? Another game with poor officiating doesn't look good for the Skins. No, it wasn't a well-officiated game. The officials have been awful of late, but this was, make no mistake about it, for as bad as the officials were in this game, the Cowboys were that much better, and they went out and took this football game, especially on the defensive side of the football. What's going on, JP? Feels good. Feels good to be back in the saddle. JP says, that was a piss-poor game. I guarantee the Saints would roll right over the Cow Turds, but I guess I have to eat crow now. Go ahead and eat up, bruh. You're not alone. A lot of people kept saying that the Cowboys stood no chance in this game. I wasn't one of them. I didn't think they were going to win. I'm not going to sit here and act like I predicted a Cowboys win. But I knew they had a chance to be in this ball game late with a chance to win. I just thought the Saints would find a way to pull it out, and I was wrong. Matthew Lynch says, I told you the Cowboys had the East midseason, and you dismissed me. I dismissed you because, A, you're always just talking. That had no validity to it. It had no legs to it at the time you said it. This was pre-Amari Cooper trade when you made that statement. The Cowboys showed no signs of having the ability. I think you made that statement around the time when they blew out Jacksonville. They weren't good then. So, yeah, I dismissed you. They still are a team that's a work in progress, especially on the offensive side, but make no mistake about it. With the way they play defense, they're going to be able to give anybody a run for their money. And when you play the kind of defense the Cowboys are playing, all you're going to do is give yourself a chance. And that's why the Redskins' deterioration on the defensive side has hurt so much, because despite the offensive struggles of the Redskins, with the way we were playing defense earlier in the season, we were going to be in ball games, and that's all you can ask for. This Cowboys team, they're going to be in ball games despite their offense only putting up 13. They're going to be in ball games because their defense is that good. And let me say this, the Saints, you can talk about their defense and their 30th ranked passing defense and their first-ranked rush defense. All of those numbers are skewed. All right, they're always ahead. They're always ahead by a ton, and so teams have to throw it. There are a lot of garbage time yards in there. The run defense is skewed because a lot of teams don't have the ability to run it, because before they could even blink, they're down 24 and the run game is out the window. They're a solid defense. Eli Apple stinks. He stunk in New York. He stinks in New Orleans. They've got to fix that. But I can tell you this much. That was a bogus PI call on Lattimore late to give the Cowboys essentially the win. This is a good Saints defense. I don't care what anybody says. They're better than people are giving them credit for. They're a dangerous defense. They can get after the quarterback. They also are a physical bunch over there. I like the Saints. Sheldon Rankins, I was wrong about Sheldon Rankins. Any Saints fan will tell you I was not high on him coming out of Louisville. This guy has proven to be a stud in the middle of that Saints defense. This is by far and away his best season. This guy's playing out of his brains. And so they've got some stuff. All right. Tyler Davison is another guy that I really like. Daniel Onyemata is coming into his own. I like this Saints defense. They're good too. And they kept them in this ball game as well with the turnovers. Saints offense really let them down in this football game. The 20th Mike says, do you think Dallas can beat anybody now that they beat the best team in the league? They can beat anybody because they play defense. I told you that. Now, again, I think, and defense travels, so them being on the road shouldn't really impact them. But I think if they play in New Orleans, I don't think they're going to beat the Saints. I think if they go to say if they went on the road against a high-powered offense like a Kansas City, I think they would be in trouble. I think they could go to L.A. because that's not a true home field advantage. I think the Cowboys can be rattled on the road against quality opponents. That's why they're so good at home and they're not as good on the road. Although of recent weeks, they've been able to go to Atlanta and win and to Philadelphia and win. But again, those are two sub-500 teams that haven't been good this season. So I'm anxious to see what they look like against Indianapolis on the road in a couple of weeks. That will tell the story because the Colts are playing at a really high level. They haven't given up a sack in 5 weeks. By the time the Cowboys get there, it may be at a record 6 weeks with no sacks for Andrew Luck. They're starting to be able to run it a little bit. They're throwing it, and Andrew Luck is playing at a very high level. Cowboys have struggled on the road. Anxious to see what that looks like in a couple of weeks. But they've got Tampa before they go out to Indianapolis. But, yeah, with the way they play defense, they're going to be in most football games for sure. Colt McCoy says, my bad on last week's loss. Hadn't practiced with the starters since the offseason and was rusty from sitting behind check down Alex all year, but I guarantee you that I'll bounce back. That sounds good, Colt, man. It really does. But I'm not a man of many words. I'm about action, boss. I'm about that action, boss. So show me. Don't tell me. Show me. Spencer Creech says, tell the punt on, he said, tell that the punt on the inches on the helmet-to-helmet and the Beasley first down were not bad calls. The helmet-to-helmet was a helmet-to-helmet. That was a bad no call. And Beasley didn't get the first down. But the Saints didn't have any challenges. And that's sometimes what happens when you allow a player to coach you into challenging. Michael Thomas knew he didn't catch that goddamn football. He shouldn't have went over there and I caught it, challenge. And, you know, as a coach, you want to believe your player and you want to stick up for your guy. And when they tell you I caught it and he's that definitive and Michael Thomas catches everything, you are inclined to believe him. And that one hurt because they could have used that challenge later on in the game. And I didn't fault him for challenging the hit on the tight end over the middle of the field because that was a catch and a fumble. And at the time, you're struggling, you're down 10-0. That's going to get you inside the 10-yard line. I don't have a problem with him challenging that Arnold fumble. I would have did the same damn thing because, what you don't want to do is sit on your hands and wait and say, well, I don't want to challenge because I'm out of challenges. And then you end up not even using that other challenge the rest of the game. I want to be in the moment, here and now. You sit on that challenge, and let's say you don't get another chance down there, and you end up having to settle for a field goal right where you are, and Will Lutz misses, and now you're thinking to yourself, I should have challenged that, and I would have had the football first and goal from the 7 instead of, back at the 29-yard line and end up settling for a 47-yard field goal, 46-yard field goal and missing. So I didn't have a problem with it, but he shouldn't have challenged the Michael Thomas catch. That's the one that hurt. But anyway, Vincent Coe says, I think LVE, Leighton Vander Esch, is even better than Sean Lee already. I'd have to agree with you. Leighton Vander Esch, he's younger, he's faster, he's a little bit more aggressive. Lee is probably still smarter than Vander Esch. He probably diagnoses things a little faster just because he's seen more throughout his career. But everything is pointing towards Leighton Vander Esch just being a much better fit for the Cowboys right now because of his ability to run. The guy is a hell of an athlete. We knew that coming out of Boise, and he's showing us on a weekly basis. Ricky L says, y'all overreacting. Just remember the Saints will probably end up with the #1 seed. So if they meet up in the playoffs, I fully guarantee they will not beat the Saints in New Orleans. I agree with you. I'm not overreacting. It happens. Like I said, I fully expect that if this game were to happen again in New Orleans, the Cowboys aren't winning. I'm with you. I already said as much. Hirsch Patel says, as a Cowboys fan, I was pretty pissed at how confident the Cowboys fans were. I'm just happy with the win for now. I don't – you know what? You should be confident. You're playing good football, and your defense is outstanding. You don't want to be too confident. A borderline cocky is where you want to end up. You want to be confident, not cocky, but you want to straddle that line. Cowboys fans, when they start winning, they can really cross that line. But, look, I'm not here to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't do. Your team just beat the best team in the league tonight. Celebrate, goddammit. You just beat the Saints. And you're 7-5, and you're probably going to win the NFC East. The 20th Mike says, dang, did the Redskins really go against that defense, or were they just better tonight? Yeah, but, that's family business, though. We know the Cowboys. They know us. So you can't really look at, oh, man, we did so good against the Cowboys, and look what the Saints did. That's family over there. You know what I mean? We know those boys like they are first cousins. Why? Because they are our first cousins. That's family business. So you can't talk about what we do. That's just like Tampa beating the Saints. Why were we able to destroy Tampa and force all those turnovers and keep them out the ends? Why were they able to score 48 on the Saints? Because it's family business. That's family. You don't get in other people's family business. They stay out of our business. We stay out of theirs. So, yeah, we went up against that defense last week. JP says, how many participants, winners and losers, do you think picked the Saints to blow? Well, there is no score, but I'd have to venture to say probably 90 to 95%. I haven't looked. But most people probably picked the Saints to win the football game. I mean, no one wants to be the guy, and this is why I should have picked the Cowboys, because I had an inkling that this would happen, but I didn't have the balls. I didn't have the guts to pull the trigger. I probably should have picked the Cowboys, but nobody wants to be the guy that picks the other team, and then everybody else gets the win, and you get a loss because you're trying to be special. And that's how I felt. So I had to take the L with everybody else. Colt McCoy says, I'm going to have a career day, 5 touchdowns and 425 yards through the air on Monday Night Football, and people are going to start putting me in the MVP conversation. Hey, Colt, chill, bruh. Chill. All right? With those 5 touchdowns, how many interceptions you going to throw? 5? Colts fan says, now do you think Andrew Luck is in the MVP race? No, I don't. Andrew Luck is going to win Comeback Player of the Year. Stay in your lane, Andrew. Stay in your lane. Your team is 6-5. You're not winning the MVP, okay? But what you will win over J.J. Watt, which is a hotly contested debate, you are going to win Comeback Player of the Year, and you deserve it. Cloud says Brees lost this game for the most part. Brees was skittish, man. He was scared back there. He was not comfortable. Brees didn't lose this game on his own. This was a collective effort. Sean Payton didn't do a good job of calling this game. I thought this was one of his worst games calling a game offensively of the season. The offensive line was not great tonight. And everybody, this is a collective. Alvin Kamara had some drops. He didn't make guys miss out in space as we've seen him do in the past. Give some credit to the Cowboys. They forced the issue. Give them credit. Ricky L says, just got off the phone with Dougie P. He says that you're going to have to suit up at corner on Monday. Hey, look, bro, I'm ready. Give me the call, man. I'm ready. Sign me up. I'm ready to go. Now, the only problem is if I suit up at corner for y'all, I might give up a couple touchdowns. Oops, my bad. You don't want me out there on Monday because my boys are on the opposite side. However, I could suit up for y'all and do a little work, man. Y'all are really banged up over there. Anyway, Enrique Valencia says, can't believe Andrew Luck is now the least sacked quarterback in the NFL. But he said, by the way, watch out for if Luck wins out and puts up huge numbers, he may be able to steal the MVP. Bruh, he's too far in the hole. What Mahomes and Brees have done to this point, and hell, even Jared Goff is ahead of him. There's no way Luck is coming back and stealing anything. But like I said already, Luck is going to nail down Comeback Player of the Year, and he deserves it. Will Luck get a couple of votes for MVP? Maybe if the Colts go 10-6 and make it to the postseason. Yeah, he might get a couple of votes. He's not going to win the MVP, though. Chuck Sharp says, do you think Dallas has the best defense in the league? I would, you know what? I am leaning towards saying yes. I really feel like their ability to get after the quarterback with just their front four and the linebackers and the speed that they possess at linebacker, their secondary leaves a little bit to be desired. I think Byron Jones is a stud. But Chidobe Awuzie and all those other guys, Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, those guys don't scare anybody. You can throw the football against those guys. But I think the safeties are coming along slowly. Jeff Heath is always around the football. I like this Cowboys defense enough to the point where I think you could go out and make the claim that they're the best defense in the league. I'm going out on a limb and saying, yeah, they're the best defense in the league. You go find me one better. Chicago is right there, okay? I think if you put a gun to my head, I think that the Cowboys as a collective unit can get more pressure. It's more of Khalil Mack and maybe Akeem Hicks from time to time getting pressure for the Bears. But I think the Bears create more havoc on defense with creating turnovers. That's why they have the best turnover differential in the league. Whereas Dallas doesn't create as many turnovers, but they're just as sound as they can be. They get off the field on third downs. I'd give the edge to Dallas, but the Bears are right there as one of the best defenses in football for sure. Derek B says, the Saints played right into the Cowboys' hands. They kept trying to get to the edge of that defense. As I mentioned, a lot of their runs were out on the perimeter. This Cowboys defense is fast. They float to the football. Derek B also says their defense is too fast for that. Titans beat them running up the middle. And that's what I said. You got to out-physical the Cowboys. I thought and what the Titans did a great job of was spreading the Cowboys out and then having those inside handoffs to the running back from the Patriots. His name escaped me, but it'll come to me. But you guys know who I'm talking about. But yeah, that's what I thought that the Saints should have done more of. Spread out the Cowboys, 11 personnel, and then hand it off to Kamara. And with the Cowboys spread out and try to get 5 and 6 that way. I didn't love the approach. I thought, like I said, this was a bad game plan coming into the game by Sean Payton. I didn't think he took advantage of some opportunities that could have been there for this Saints offense. Robert Gamble says, I didn't want them to win, but I knew it was going to happen. John Perez says, the refs missed a lot in this game, including missing Jalen Smith's helmet-to-helmet hit. These dumbasses in zebra stripes have no idea what the hell they're doing anymore. It's been rough for the officials this season. They've been rough. It's been rough on them, for sure. Gregory Lightbody says, I wish my Skins would have drafted Van Der Esch, but no one knew he was the best linebacker in the draft. I didn't want the Redskins to draft Leighton Van Der Esch in the first round. I thought he was good. I didn't know he was this good, but I would have been upset if the Redskins would have drafted Van Der Esch with a guy like West Virginia's Tremaine Edmonds sitting on the board. You know how I feel about that. I think that if Edmonds were put in, and Edmonds is playing good football. He just plays for a bad Buffalo Bills football team, so he's not getting any pub. But Van Der Esch has just been lights out for sure. Cloud says, nah, Dallas ain't sweeping us. I don't give a F. He said, I don't give a damn how bad we are. We'll get them in Dallas as usual. Okay, you say. We'll see. Hype Dude says, Dallas has lost at home to the Titans. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. You're right. Do you see them winning 3 out of their 4 next games? You're right. They did lose to the Titans on that Monday night game. But he says, do you see them winning 3 out of their next 4 games? Well, let's check the calendar and see what their next 3 out of 4 games look like, shall we? I believe it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's Tampa, then it's on the road at Indy, and then I believe it's the Eagles again, but I could be wrong. So let's just check the schedule and get the official breakdown of this Cowboys schedule and see who they're going to be playing, because I truly believe it is Saints tonight. They took care of business. Eagles. So it's Eagles, Colts, and then Bucks, and then the Giants. They could win all 4 of those games. I mean, the one that I think they have a really distinct chance of losing is at Indy. But they could win that game because, as you can see, their defense is good enough to shut down a high-octane offense. But if you ask me which one of those games they were in danger of losing, it'd be at Indy in Week 15. But, you know, home for the Eagles, very winnable football game. At the Colts in Week 15, home for the Bucks, that's going to be a win. At the Giants are still a dangerous football team. I don't know what their mindset will be in Week 17, but you've got to assume that the Cowboys should be able to take care of business there as well. Thank you for that correction. The Cowboys did lose at home. I had mentioned earlier that they were undefeated at home. They lost to the Titans on a Monday night. Derek B says, Eli Apple is no secret in the NFC East. Dak feasted on him all night to whoever he was covering, and even screen passes. He's trash. Eli Apple is garbage, all right? And any team that plays the Saints will take a big bite out of that apple. And if you're the Saints, you must be mindful of that. Yeah, you got away with it on Thanksgiving, and he actually didn't play half bad on Thanksgiving. He's Eli Apple, and everyone's taking a bite out of that apple, bruh. You need to be cognizant of that. John Perez says, do you think Joe Buck is the worst announcer in sports? I listened to him during the baseball postseason this year, and baseball fans hate his guts. I don't have a problem with Joe Buck, man. Joe Buck, he can be a little by the book sometimes. He's very monotone, but I don't have a problem with Joe Buck, man, at all. Colts fan says, I don't think these Cowboys can stop our offense. We'll see. We'll have to wait. I'm not going to sit here and debate back and forth. I think your offense can move the football on them as well, but we'll see in 2 weeks. Let's see. JP says, should the NFL start giving out fines to these officiating crews for bad or missed calls? I feel like they should be held accountable. An apology to a team that you cost a game, like they apologized to the Redskins 2 weeks ago after missing a call late in the Texans game. That shit, what does that really mean? Oh, we're sorry. That should have been pass interference. What does that actually mean after the fact? We lost the game already. That apology doesn't mean anything now. Hype Dude says, Butterfingers all over the field on both sides. Gregory Lightbody says, I hope the Cowboys buck up into the Patriots in the playoffs or the Packers run the table and they see Rodgers. Well, you know they won't see the Patriots until the Super Bowl, which, do you really want that? And Rodgers, I talked about Rodgers potentially running the table on my podcast. Yeah, they have Aaron Rodgers problems, but I would not. With the way they're playing defense, I don't know if the Rodgers addition this year, the Packers addition this season, wants any part of this Cowboys defense. My man CD says, hashtag we them boys, hashtag hot boys. My man CD is on cloud 9 right now. Colts fan says, it's really good to have you back, man. It's good to be back, and I appreciate you guys joining me tonight. Colts fan says, we needed you here at the end of the season. I'm here, man. I'm here for the rest of the season, baby. I ain't going nowhere. Vincent Cole says, I think Pete Carroll deserves head coach of the year, LOL. I mean, everyone thought the Seahawks were supposed to stink this season. I'm not opposed to that. I've said this already. This is one of Pete Carroll's best coaching jobs. I don't know if it's his best job, but I've heard conversations of people saying that this is his best job. I don't disagree with that. I really feel like Pete Carroll has, and I think, and I've said this already, and I said this when they beat the Packers on a Thursday night, that I thought it was addition by subtraction. Pete Carroll actually has taken control of this team again. The Legion of Boom was single-handedly destroying this team from within because they were too dominant of a personality on that football team. Their voice resonated in that locker room, and sometimes it even drowned out the voice of one Pete Carroll. Those players, those young players on that team were impressionable, and they looked to the Legion of Boom for guidance, and sometimes they weren't always giving out the right message. Now with Dick Sherman off to San Francisco, with Earl Thomas probably gone and played his last game in Seattle, and Cam Chancellor gone to a neck injury, this Seattle Seahawks defense is totally revamped, and they're young, and everyone's listening to one unified voice, and that is that of Pete Carroll. And I think that really has gone a long way in helping the Seahawks reestablish themselves as a damn good football team. So, yes, I agree. We've got 8 minutes left. We'll see how many comments I can pick off in that time frame. Here we are. JP says, Skins Tribe is killing the rest right now, and it's hilarious. Hirsch Patel says, you punch a mother in the mouth, and they start doing things they're not used to. Tank, which is DeMarcus Lawrence. And that's exactly what happened tonight. You heard the quote. You punch a mother in his mouth, and they start doing things they ain't supposed to do. What did Drew Brees do tonight? Start throwing off his back foot. Happy feet. Bad ball placement. He should have thrown 2 picks today. There was another one that should have been picked off in the flats on the very first possession of the game. From the jump, this man was scared. That's what happens when you punch a bully in his mouth. Reese says, Lou, welcome back, my old friend. How was your Thanksgiving? It was phenomenal. I talked about it on the podcast, so check that out. That pod will be up probably about an hour after this video meets its conclusion. I just got to make 1 or 2 final edits, and then that thing will be up for you guys to enjoy. Make sure you check out that new, fresh edition of the Louie T Network podcast. JP says, I'm surprised to see Randy Gregory staying out of trouble this year. At some point, you think a guy has to sink in. And at some point, you got to realize your livelihood can be taken away from you. And I don't know Randy Gregory, so this next statement that I'm about to make is maybe as inaccurate as it can get. But Randy Gregory strikes me as a guy that doesn't have a lot to do outside of football. I could be wrong. He could be a genius off the field. And football is just a small sliver of his life. And that this guy could be anything he wants to be off the field. But he just strikes me as a guy that needs to play football in order to make a livelihood. And at some point, he has to realize, they can take this from me and I cannot make money doing what I want to do. So I think it's starting to sink in. Reese says, I'm laughing at the Saints right now, Lou, but they weren't going to run the table. If anything, this may be good for them and help them stay humble. And you know, sometimes you need one of these kicks in the pants when you're playing as well as the Saints were to refocus you. You know, they might have thought they were just going to show up in Dallas and just win. And they've done that over the last 5 or 6 weeks where they just showed up teams have laid down stands for the Rams game. They've just showed up and whooped some ass. Teams have laid down for them. So maybe they needed one of these games to refocus them. Ree also says, the Bucs are not going to fool me this time, Lou. We've had wins like this before. Winning late to prove there's still hope. They're not going to get me this time. The fact that you're making this statement to me, Ree, means you're trying to convince yourself not to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. You're falling for it as we speak right now, Ree. You want to believe. You don't want to believe because you want change, but you still believe, Ree. You're believing right now. You telling me that tells me that you believe. So you can keep saying whatever you need to say to try to convince yourself. But right now, you sound like a guy that's scarred, that wants to not believe, but you believe. And if you win again, say you beat Dallas in a couple of weeks, you're going to believe, bruh. You're going to believe. JP says, what's with everyone in the comments calling Brees trash? I don't know. I haven't read any of those comments, but come on. We all know the truth there. Hirsch Patel says, it's weird. Cowboys defense is not getting that many turnovers or sacks. However, they are making stops and getting pressure. And sometimes it's not about turnovers are great. You know, they change ball games. But you know what else is great? Getting off the field on 3rd and 7. Getting off the field on 3rd and 5. That's great too. Even though your offense isn't great, getting off the field on 3rd down, that counts for something. You know what? Great sacks are great. But you know what else is great? Pressure is even better than just getting sacks. I'd much rather get consistent pressure from snap 1 to snap 69 than to get 2 sacks or 3 sacks in a game, but have them be spaced out and not be. I'll give you a great example. The Redskins sacked Dak Prescott 4 times in the first half on Thanksgiving. Where was that pressure in the second half? It was non-existent. That's what I'm talking about. 4 sacks sounds great, but that pressure wasn't where the Redskins needed it to be in the second half. The Cowboys didn't get a ton of sacks tonight, but the pressure was consistent throughout. And consistent pressure creates issues for the opposing offense, and it gets you off the field. And eventually, if you get enough pressure, you're going to create turnovers as well. And if not for a penalty on Gregory on offsides, you would have had a fumble, and you would have created more than just the 1 interception in this football game. Reese says, Lou, I didn't want to believe you with Deshaun Jackson. I thought he changed. He's a cancer. He has divided the locker room and is throwing teammates under the bus. Bruh, when will you start listening to me? I told you that Deshaun Jackson, for all of his talents, there's a reason why this man has played on, 3 teams now in his career. That kind of talent, you don't let that talent walk. But Deshaun Jackson is a me-first guy. And as long as you're winning, he'll shut up. He'll take his L's. He'll take his 1 catch for 27 yards. But you start losing, and he's going to show his ass. We've seen it before, and you're seeing it now. Reese says, Cairo Santos, Lou, he is balling for us. He's made all of his kicks since being here. 8 extra points, 3 field goals. Could he be back? I told you, I knew the Cairo Santos pre-injury in Kansas City. That guy was a beast. I told you, the guy that I saw after the injury that was missing kicks and got cut, I don't know him. So you might have gotten the Kairos that I knew and loved back in Kansas City. And if you did, good for you. You got yourself a damn good field goal kicker. Reese says 35 days until Dirk Cutter is fired. JP says, we got a couple minutes. Let me keep going. JCamman99 says, I actually predicted the Cowboys win at the beginning of the season. My August self was correct. And let's see. Stormtrooper says, damn it, Amari seems worth that first. Every Gruden move seems to turn to gold for every team but Oakland. Look, I can tell you this much. I don't know if it was worth a first rounder. It looks like it right now, but they still got to re-sign him. At the end of the day, I can tell you this much. Cooper looks so much more comfortable in Dallas than he ever did in Oakland. He used to drop the football at Oakland. There were lapses in concentration. None of that is happening. He looks like his route running is off the charts. He looks like he's back at Alabama. And maybe him being closer to home, he's a down south guy. Maybe him being closer to home was what he needed. Maybe him being out on the West Coast wasn't ideal for him. He looks like a really comfortable guy. He looks like a different football player. And he's really killing it, man. Jake Camman says, nice job guest starring on the Sports Fury show. I wish they would adopt your hashtag idea for reading comments during the live stream. It's always fun linking up. That was my second time blessing their program. Those guys are awesome. It was fun doing their show. And that's it. We hit our hour. Cowboys, man, this was a fun game to watch. I'm not going to lie to you. It was excruciating because the Cowboys won as a Redskins fan, but, man, was this fun to watch. Cowboys get the win 13-10. One of the best defensive performances we've seen all season. After watching that shootout of a game, Rams-Chiefs, this was so refreshing to watch a 13-10 ball game with this level of physicality and defense. This was fun. Cowboys are legit, and they're going to be a tough out in the NFC if they continue to play this brand of football and are able to get a little bit more out of their offense. For the Saints, look, this was an aberration. You're fine. Your 10-game win streak is snapped. You weren't going to win 15 straight to finish out the regular season. You were going to lose at some point. It just happened to be on a Thursday night in Week 13 to the Dallas Cowboys. Nothing to hang your head at. This team in Dallas plays some of the best defense we've seen this season. So it was inevitable to fall somewhere. Maybe this will refocus you, and you'll be able to turn your attention back to being focused, and you'll pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and you'll go about your business. I still think you're one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best team in the conference. So your goal should be get the number 1 seed. You get the number 1 seed, you're going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. I can assure you of that. But you got to get home field advantage throughout first. And so we'll see what happens moving forward. But that's going to do it for your man Louie T here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Cowboys defeat the New Orleans Saints, snap their 10-game win streak, 13-10. Cowboys now 7-5 in sole possession of first place in the NFC East with the win. Meanwhile, the Saints drop to 10-2, still miles ahead of anyone else in the NFC South Division. But now they're a half game back of first place in the conference, as now the 10-1 Los Angeles Rams hold the number 1 spot in the NFC Conference. I'm your man Louie T signing off. Remember, if it's not your man T, it's not the best NFL coverage that it could be. Remember, check out the Louie T Network podcast. That should be dropping very shortly, so keep your eyes peeled on that. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the Louie T Network, please go ahead and do so. Like this video and make sure that you tell any and everybody about the Louie T Network. Again, I'm your man Louie T signing off. I'll see you guys next time. Enjoy your weekend. You know I will. Glad to be back. See you next time.
Louie T Network.